BPI Sports has always been a massive supporter of natural bodybuilding, so it only made sense for us and them to partner up. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by BPI Sports, and if you want to support them and us, use code Natty News Daily at checkout for some exclusive discounts off any of your orders. Enjoy the episode.
What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of Natty News Daily. We got the squad, and we got three full faces now. I feel like for the longest time, at least one of us was running death face on these podcasts, and now we're all back, chubby cheeks and all. So this episode, we're just going to have a conversation about my season. For those of you that have been following along, I competed this year, stepped on stage 4 times over the course of like a 6-week period. As of recording this, it's May 4th. So I wrapped up my last show, I guess, 2 weeks ago now, which is week and a half, I guess. But it's crazy to think that how quickly it's done. You know what I mean? Like, you prep for so long. And, you know, I was actually explaining this to a person at work today that I prepped for basically north of 6 months, and my total time on stage was probably about an hour, which is crazy to think about. So,
which is also long for a lot of people too, right? Like, because you did 4 shows. How many people do 1 show and they're done, or maybe 2?
Oh yeah, I think I had 7 athletes compete just this past weekend, and one of them, he only did this 1 show. He did 1 class, and you're right, like it was probably south of 10 minutes he was actually on stage for. So, and he prepped for not quite as long, but it was still, I think it was about 24 weeks, right? So you figure 24 weeks for 10 minutes on stage, like, damn, why we do this?
But at the end of the day, would you say it's worth it?
Oh, for sure. Like, if you love the game, then that 10 minutes is everything, right? You know, for
sure,
for that 10 minutes. And you know, that's why, I really encourage people to get photos. And, for me, I documented this prep pretty extensively and got photos when I was in good condition in the gym and stuff like that, because those are the memories, right? The photos that the 3 of us took, like, that's the stuff that's, going to be up on my office wall when it's all prettied up and renovated. It's not the 10 minutes on stage will fade away in my memory, right?
I don't know for you.
To some degree.
You did pretty damn well. I don't know. I wouldn't go that far.
As a general, though, like, you're not going to remember that, like, side chest transition to your front double bicep, but you're going to remember the photos if they're captured or that kind of stuff, right? Like, those are the documentation of that whole thing, right? So, but yeah, so this episode, guys, we're just going to chat about my season. We were quickly touching on some interesting topics off air that I figure would be cool to talk about, because I want to really explain the highs and the lows, the pros and the cons of this whole process. So, do we want to start with my season just as a whole?
We already discussed that you've already become fat and need to diet again because you can't control yourself.
Yes. So that's
let's dive into that.
Yeah. So that's something that we can touch on really quick. So there's, many camps of what in quotes you're supposed to do after a competition, right? And, there's some people that say you need to really slowly reverse out, some that, maybe a little bit more aggressive, reverse dieting, recovery diet, all these different terms that get thrown around. And the one thing I will emphasize is this is individual to everybody. How you come out of a show is just as different as how you probably got to the stage. The 3 of us, how we got to stage condition is different, and how we've come out of our shows is very different. My biggest thing for me is I want to feel better as soon as I can. I want to feel better physically. I want to feel better mentally, and probably more so mentally than physically, to be honest. Because of those that have got to stage condition, the toll that it can take on your headspace mentally. And I, for one, had a lot of ups and downs mentally this prep. So for me, it was like, I just want to get back to normal. So that meant I was going to have very loose restrictions with food, especially the first day or 2. I was surrounded by friends, family, and my wife. I don't want to weigh anything. I'm not tracking my macros. I'm not doing that.
How much do you think you put down in the first day or 2?
the first day I wasn't bad, right? And I commented on that when we went to the gym the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
It was the subsequent days after that I definitely packed away some food. If I was to hazard a guess, man, I was touching 7, 8, 9,000 easy for sure.
I believe it.
Yeah, and for those listening, that might sound insane. I can probably speak to many people that post show. That's not uncommon at all. And again, I was in a situation where I just wanted to kind of be normal for a bit, right? And that meant, I got up. Let's go day after the show. I can run you guys exactly how the day went. Day after the show, I got up. I didn't sleep because I was still running on an adrenaline high, and I was like full from the day before because we went out and enjoyed some food the day, like the evening of after the show. So I wasn't
your first Chick-fil-A experience.
I had my first Chick-fil-A experience. It was good. And I wasn't sick feeling. I wasn't overly bloated feeling. I just felt full, just probably food volume more than anything. So I went down, did some cardio at the hotel room, got just some blood flowing a little bit, and I felt really good doing that. And I think I did it after my last season as well. It just felt good to move again. Then we walked to the hotel breakfast. We're like, we can do that now. This is great. So I brought down a protein shake, and I had a bagel with like peanut butter and jam, which was super cool. I had like a breakfast blueberry muffin. That was nice. Like nothing crazy, but just, again, normal. That's the best way I can describe it. Went to the gym with you guys. Then afterwards had some donuts, I think, from Krispy Kreme. We tried to go to Chick-fil-A again, but Sundays they're not open. Turns out that's
you did try to go again. So you did like it.
It was delicious for sure. Like the hype for Chick-fil-A is well deserved. I'll give you guys that. Yeah. Then we went home. I think probably we had some bullshit for dinner too, and just like it's just I wasn't thinking about food from like a prep perspective. It was more so just like, what do I want to enjoy with the people I'm surrounded by that I haven't had in a long time, and it was nice. And now fast forward to where I'm at. We were just saying I'm probably about somewhere around 15, 16, 17 pounds over kind of where I finished off the season. I'm right around kind of the mid 170s right now, which is for me my comfortable weight, I guess you could say. This is a body weight where I can kind of just eat habitually and live my life, and not like my weight will kind of hang here is these mid to late 170s. And I feel great here, honestly. There was definitely a bit of an adjustment period mentally, seeing myself softer. I will definitely not say that I'm immune to that. Seeing my my face was the one that I never noticed before that messed with my head, but seeing my face filled out, and maybe just because I didn't get to nearly the extreme diet wise, like where I was like Skeletor face as extreme as I got this season, but seeing myself in the mirror, it's like, oh shit, like you've put back weight back on, but now
you almost go to like the Skeletor face, like embrace it, like, oh yes.
Well, and you're just
it's a weird thing.
You're just so used to seeing it, and like you just register that that's what you look like, right?
Yeah.
So just like someone who is very overweight would lose 30, 40, 50 pounds and be like, wow, like I almost don't recognize myself, right? People that have lost a lot of weight, they say that. I'm in the reverse, whereas like, oh, I put back on a healthy level of body fat, right? Like when I flex my abs, they're still there. Like I could still probably walk around on the beach and people be like, shit, this guy's jacked. I'm not like that far gone. And we mentioned off air that when I'm at work now, so I have like a polo t-shirt, and I still got some vascularity in my arms, but now I'm full. Like I feel big when I have like a shirt on again. Whereas before, when I was shredded, like my medium shirts I was swimming in, and people now comment the last 2 days, I probably can count on, like 10 comments from people that said like, man, like you look jacked, which is so weird because when I arguably looked the most jacked in photos on stage, right, with a pump, that's when people were like, you look small, right? And that's kind of the running joke with natural bodybuilding, right? You get on stage, you look like $1,000,000. People see you in person, you don't even look like you lift. Whereas now I'm at that spot where it's like, oh, like my traps fill out the top of my shirt, my biceps fill out the shirt, a little bit of vascularity down the arms. This is a spot that I could, realistically hang out at long term and be like, yep, I'm in a good spot. Food wise, I eat the same thing, meals 1 to 5, because that's my daily work life. I switch things up if I feel like it, like protein sources mainly, but in the morning I get up, I have my pre-workout meal, which has been eggs with a bagel and a protein shake. I train. I still have protein and cereal after my workout. Then I have steak, potatoes, and vegetables. Then I have chicken, rice, and vegetables. I've been on a Greek yogurt kick. I found a Greek yogurt solution to not liking it. So I do Greek yogurt
with the whey and nuts and berries. Yeah, I saw that one.
A little bit of dark chocolate in there. Real good. And then dinners is like whatever me and Carrie feel like having. Last night we had pizza because we felt like it. The night before we had like chicken and roasted potatoes. So I'm back to like what I would call a normal living situation. And my sleep improved like almost immediately, which is probably partly due to not hitting caffeine around 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon to keep myself alive, which would mess with my sleep. But also like the mental fatigue from prep, the increased food intake. Like my calories are probably now anywhere from 3 to 3,500, depending on what I eat, right? Definitely 3,000 because that's what like my meal plan is set at is 3,000. Then dinners is going to vary that a little bit. So right off the hop, I went from the prep low right to 3,000. Training performance immediately improved. I enjoy the gym again. I'm having fun with it. Mentally,
you like your dog again, which is behind you?
Oh yeah, me and the dog are cool. We get along again. Me and the wife are cool. We get along again. But yeah, so long-winded answer. That's where I'm at now.
And I think the biggest thing for people to realize is remember that timeline, right? This is 1.5 weeks post show, and you're already seeing these positives. Where, I mean, I don't know of any research that points to one tactic being better than the other, right? So if we're looking at pros, unclear. If we're looking at cons of a reverse diet versus a recovery diet, I mean, the reverse diet, you might be up 100 calories. Cool. What's that? Like nothing. You're going to still be starving. You're still going to have some of these side effects. So I would much rather, I'm kind of more in your camp where it's just kind of like put some weight on, feel normal, be a human again, so you can be productive a little bit easier, at least in my mind, right? Because the fat's going to come back on. It has to. So why not just do it, be done with it, and start training again to grow instead of trying to control everything so much where you're still, for another 4 months stressed out, fatigued, XYZ.
Oh yeah, like I wake up now. Like I still get up at 6. I still do all my same shit in the morning, but I wake up and I'm like awake. Whereas before, like sleep, guys, is so crucial to your like overall health and well-being. And until you get good sleep, you don't necessarily realize how shitty your sleep was before. Like I knew my sleep was bad. This is like, we talked about this. Like I was probably running on like 4 hours sleep for a solid 10 plus weeks, easy.
Damn.
And that was like it wasn't good, and it was very broken. It was just terrible sleep. But within 3 nights of good quality sleep, boom, my like whole life changes. Like I just feel so much better. I get up like once a night to pee and I go right back to sleep. Like it's insane how much better that feels. And I get up and I eat and I do my thing and I'm ready to work out. Like it's it's insane how I love it, but it's insane how much prep fucks you.
And like, even though you knew you felt kind of shitty at the end of it, you don't realize how bad you felt until you come back to life. You're like, wow.
For sure. Like I was fucked. I like mentally, physically, emotionally, like, but you kind of just get numb to it. And you're like, this is the way it has to be. This is the way I am right now. But in hindsight, and again, this is just but not even 2 weeks later, I've gone complete 180 to like, holy shit, like I was a hurting man for quite some time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said too, like you're enjoying your training again. So you're already, and that's something that a lot of people struggle with. And I did. I feel like I went through like, was really super focused on training. Like I know my weak points now. I gotta like address these weak points. And then it just like all of a sudden was like, now I did move in there and I was living with in-laws for a bit and there was a lot of other things, but like there for a couple months and the coaching business like took over for a bit where I was prioritizing that.
Yep.
But I mean like training was just like I don't have the focus to like really get after it right now for a period of like 2 months, maybe more, honestly, maybe until like this last month or so.
I feel like that's almost more common straight
Mhm.
up. Like I think, after prep, you because you put so much into it that you're almost like,
Mhm.
I just need look training. It's not you, it's me right now. I just need some space, right? Like
Mhm.
I can I was at that point nearing the end of prep where I was like, because like I was not enjoying workouts. They were depleted, shitty training sessions. Like you did them to tick them off and then moved on with your life. The best
Mhm.
part about training was taking pre-workout beforehand, straight up. Um, and even coming out of prep with kind of talking to Cliff and having the plan set out. But even the last couple of days, I've noticed this weird feeling towards bodybuilding, and this is something that we've talked about, and we can talk about this in another podcast. Just like I almost feel like I need some space from bodybuilding. I was really gung ho after the show, and then up until kind of yesterday, and even today, was like, I think I need something different,
Mhm.
just with training, just something to kind of break up the monotony, right? And I have a whole new program set up that like me and Cliff devised and everything like that, but it's still bodybuilding. Whereas like I feel like I need, and that's where like the more functional, more athletic, more like
Mhm.
maybe like more sprinkles in powerlifting. I did a shit ton of mobility this morning, and it felt really good. And I'm like, I feel like I just need to take my body through like a repair phase for a little while, because for the last like, I mean, really 6 months of prep, but like 2-3 years of this whole process, kind of been just like beating the shit out of myself. It's paid off, but I'm starting to feel it now that that phase has been pushed behind me now, and I'm moving into this next phase where I'm like, okay, what's next? Maybe I need to take 6 months to just give bodybuilding a little bit of space and kind of get that spice back towards it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and it's a new stimulus too, right? Like if you're changing your training, it's a way you haven't trained before, so you're going to get some different growth probably from it, maybe a little less specific.
Yeah.
You can't tell me like I went through a little bit of like Olympic lifting, a little bit of CrossFit, and I still sprinkle in some of that stuff just to like feel like an athlete again because I don't right now all the time.
No, for sure.
But you can't tell me if you're doing like heavy power cleans, like you're not going to grow muscle. Like it might be like a more shotgun approach to it, right? Rather than being very, very precise with your exercise selection, but you're moving a ton of weight through space. So,
Yeah.
it's got to
No,
do
yeah.
something.
Yeah, I just feel
Everyone's a
banged up.
everyone's a little different in how they manage that and how they want to approach that for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan stayed locked in, but Dan's a
I,
robot. So,
I just want to do the same thing.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
And this
Yeah.
this isn't new to me too, for those listening. Like I started like when I started bodybuilding, and then like I had a good string of shows, and then 2018 is when I jumped into powerlifting. And I was like, because it was like my first real off season after like a kind of a 2-year stint of like regular competitions, bodybuilding. And then I was like, man, I'll switch it up. I'm gonna do powerlifting. And I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it. So I think that's just the way I am, where I kind of just need new challenges from time to time. And I think especially this go around, where I kind of checked off at up until 2 weekends ago. Like my biggest goal in bodybuilding was a WNBF pro card. I didn't really think much further than that. Like seriously. Like I'd have those casual thoughts of like, oh, world
get
and
that.
stuff like that. But you know, I did it, right? Like I didn't like complete bodybuilding, but up until like that initial goal, I checked it off. Like I kind of did it. So now like half of my brain's like, okay, what's next? You need something different, right? So I have like my long-term goals, but kind of immediately, like I'm goal oriented. Like I need something to work on. Like I think for me to just go in the gym and train anymore, it's as weird as that sounds. Like I need to know why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
Right?
I'm
So
I'm
whether
thinking
that's
back on my seasons, and that's kind of clicking as to maybe a little bit of why the transition out of my 2021 prep was easier than my 2018. Because 2018, I won my last show, I won an OCB pro card, and that was the goal. And I was like,
yeah, and you're like, now
what
what?
now?
I did it.
Versus 2021, I did a lot of what I set out to do, basically to just hold my own in pro events. But
Yeah.
like, you know, it's not like I placed top 5 in any pro shows. It's not like I, you know, I didn't win a WMBF card. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's part of that. Part of my ease of transition out of my 2021 prep was, yeah, I still got unfinished business.
No, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's exactly
Yeah.
it. And I think if I come out of my season, you know, with that quote unquote unfinished business, my mindset would be a little bit different. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, coming out of what can be only described as like an unreal season where I just like ran through it, checked off literally everything I wanted to do. It's like, well, we're here now.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
next goal
I know
within
exactly that
bodybuilding,
feeling.
my next goal within bodybuilding is so far away that I'm like, okay, and like I'm talking years for those listening. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, between now and 2020X, you know, what am I gonna do? Well, wouldn't be a bad idea to fix your body, right? Like this shoulder's jacked up, my knees hurt. So that'd be something to work on, right? Dabble in different training styles that way. Maybe I step on the platform again. Yeah, I had fun with that powerlifting thing. Maybe I'll play around with that. Like that's where the last 2 days my head's been kind of spinning with like these different options with what I want to do in the gym and fine tune figuring out like where I want that attention to go, right? Like, especially now with, you know, being at a healthier, more productive body weight, that I can put effort into those things, right? Because, you know, trying to do that stuff, you know, even sub 165 is just like, it's an uphill battle. Whereas now I'm at a body weight where I feel good, I feel strong, I feel like I can make progress from a strength perspective or from a performance perspective versus just chasing aesthetics.
Yeah, and I mean, like even as a bodybuilder, that tends to end up being kind of the objective, anyways. Is quote unquote chasing numbers. I mean, you have to be careful and temper that with not compromising execution. But yeah, it's a different mentality. It's a different and that's you know, you I mean, and anyone that's bodybuilded, you chase the physique and the shreds for so long, and then you have to flip the switch and be like, yeah, we're not chasing shreds anymore. We're chasing like, you know, improvements in the gym, which is like weird. Versus before, you're just trying to, you know, scrap for as much muscle. And, you know, the training, it's not like you're like, oh, I'm going to add a rep here. It's like, I just want to maintain what I did last week.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
So it's different.
Yeah. And at two, it's like with how slow things happen with natural bodybuilding, I think part of it that Leroy's seeing that I definitely have seen, Dan, a little bit less, like you're a little bit different experience here, is more like, how do I get myself to continue to do this for years on end without just getting bored with it, right? Because we know that the changes that we're going to see require a long period of time. So if we don't find something in that middle, we're going to like go out somewhere else, or we're going to step on stage before we probably should, because we just want, you know, you want to see that result again. So it's either you see the result by cutting your season or your off season short, getting on stage again, or you go chase the platform or a different sport or something while you're still doing the lifting you should do. Because no one's to say like I picked up rugby. I started playing rugby. I was still lifting 3 to 4 times a week doing bodybuilding stuff. And the two, it's not like you can't do another sport and lift. Every sport works out in the gym if they want to be a better athlete.
Yep. Yeah. And for me too, the biggest thing is I don't want to I don't want to develop a resentment for bodybuilding, and this is something that I dealt with through prep. That is probably a whole podcast episode in itself. But I had these moments where I was like, I fucking hate this. I hated what it was doing to me mentally. I hated what it was doing to my relationship. I hated how I felt. I was at that interim part of prep where you're like not yet shredded, but you're kind of like just looking a little skinny, and it messed with my head. It really did.
I remember
This
we had
prep
that
was very hard.
that type of not that exact conversation, but I could tell when we were talking back in January-ish.
Yeah, it was kind of like that
You're
halfway
kind of
point.
starting to feel that way. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I had
I've
I had
never
a
experienced that, but yeah, I could tell. I can see why too. I can completely understand why.
I'm at a different point in my life than I was when I last prepped. You know, I'm married now. I have a house. I have a coaching business. I work full time. Like I'm a very busy person, and it was hard to balance it all. What prep was doing from a negative standpoint, it was really unsettling and really troubling me for quite some time. And I really give Carrie, my wife, a lot of credit for getting me through those times, and you guys and Cliff, and just, you know, kind of bringing me back down a little bit, because I would go from 0 to 100 where like I'd have this moment of like challenge, right? And usually it was like interrelationship where it was just like, I hate what this is doing to us right now. And me, personality wise and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm out. And she'd be like, okay, slow down for a minute. Like, let's talk this through. Like, why are you feeling this way? And blah, blah, blah. She basically took on like a therapist hat for a couple times through prep. And to my point I'm trying to get to is, with where I am right now, I don't want to force it if it's not there right now, because I'll develop that resentment towards it. If I don't want to bodybuild for 6 months, I'm not going to force it, because I know if I try to, I won't like it and I won't get the results I want. And I'll start to develop that, like, man, this shit ain't for me anymore, which deep down is probably not the case, but it's just how I'm feeling at that time. Whereas if I take a step back, you know, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? Take a step back from being a bodybuilder and look at other training styles or training methods that excite me, that get me amped up to go to the gym, that I can make progress with. Like James said, I'm still going to build muscle. I'm still going to develop my physique. Is it very bodybuilding specific? No, but I know from experience, if I still progress in the gym in any manner, my physique will respond. And I'll go back to bodybuilding in 6, 8, 10 months, reinvigorated, ready to attack it, and arguably make better progress anyways.
Yeah. I mean, for all you know, you're addressing weak points, right? You talked about some of the nagging injuries. You talked about, I mean, overuse type injuries are prevalent in a lot of different other sports. Like there's research out right now looking at like youth athletes, especially like baseball pitchers, right? They go all year round right now, just throwing and throwing and throwing and throwing. And the number of injuries to the elbow are significantly higher just because there's no off season. There's no change in the training. There's no, you know, you used to go baseball, basketball, soccer, you know, you're different sports, so you're challenging your body differently. But now that it's that continuous rut, you're seeing these things pop up. And what is bodybuilding if not doing the exact same thing year in, year out for, you know, your life?
Yeah.
So
I'm
always going to be an advocate of it.
Yeah. And I think I'm noticing that now, just, you know, whether it was all there before and I just ignored it or suppressed it or whatever because of the goal, right? Like, you know, my body probably is just as banged up as it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, but the show was here. So maybe subconsciously it's like, I'll deal with that shit later. I'll figure it out. And now that I have kind of time to like assess myself and be present, it's like, man, when you do lateral raises, like your shoulder hurts, you know that, right? Whereas before it was like, I need delts for the stage. I'll worry about it later. Same with squatting. Like I squatted this week for the first time, and holy shit, my knees are screaming at me. And I'm like, well, that's probably not good. Probably should sort that out. So it's just, but I have some excitement towards that, which is probably, you guys can probably tell the way I'm talking about it, because it's a new challenge. It's something to work on, and it's a goal, right? The goal doesn't need to be as extreme as stepping on stage. The goal can be like, man, I just need this shoulder to not hurt anymore, right? Because That's just going to make me feel better, both physically and mentally. And then down the line, when I go back to bodybuilding and I can do lateral raises pain-free, well, it's probably not a bad idea.
And that this whole concept can be extrapolated outside of just the training too, right? It's nutrition as well. Leroy, you and I have very similar approaches with that. Like, if you don't feel like you can track and you're not getting like satisfaction from tracking and being diligent with it, don't force it, because you're going to hate it. And then you're going to find yourself like cheating in the off season and just doing these things that, you know, like in your head you shouldn't be doing, but it's because you're trying to force yourself to stick within this program that's just not working for you. Like Brett and I, we started to run a mini cut for like 2-3 weeks, and things just kept popping up. And I was just like, right now, my priorities are not to like, I don't care if I lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds right now. Like, I'm comfortable with the way I look. I'm performing well. Like, couldn't be damned to track anything to lose weight. So I'm going to be a little bit more active. If I lose a couple pounds here, that's fine. Right. But just, I was forcing it, and it just was not working. And it was causing more stress in my life than what I needed.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. Like, I don't want to feel like things are forced, or like I have to do certain things with my training or my nutrition. Like, I'm always going to have structure. That's just me, right? Like, I will habitually eat probably the same shit forever. But if I don't want to right now, then I'm not gonna, right?
But to a certain extent, you're choosing structure anyways, though.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
right?
the thing. You have structure, but you're choosing it because you like it in a lot of regards.
Yeah. It's like my food, right? Like, people are like, why are you still eating that? I thought, like, someone come into the work the other day and they're like looking over the counter and they're like, see my Tupperware with my potatoes and chicken and shit. They're like, I thought you were done prep. I'm like, I like this stuff. Like, again, that's like the habits and the lifestyle that will always be there. And I think that's part of why I'm confident in not being as strict, because I know, the 80% on point and the 20% flexibility, like that 80% for me is like, it's like the back of my hand. It's always there. Maybe it dips to 70 once in a while, but like more often than not, my 80%, it'll get me through. The 20% gives me that freedom of being a normal fucking person.
Yeah, because that's just your life now, right? Like,
people need to realize, like, I'm like a decade in this shit. Like, this is just what I do.
Yeah, like I eat eggs with a little bit of low-fat cheese and a bagel every morning, and I eat chicken, rice, and broccoli every lunch. And like, I don't think about it. I'm not stressed about it. I'm not forcing myself to do that. Like, that's my lunch. Like, that's what I do.
Part of it's simplicity too. I think that's partly why I do the things that I do. It's like,
you don't have to think about what am I going to have for this meal every day.
The amount, right? Like, honestly, now it's a pain in the ass, because it's like, what do you want to do for dinner tonight? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. Like, can we just have chicken? How do you want the chicken cooked, my dear? I can barbecue it. I can put some sauce on it. We get fancy.
Real fancy.
All right, boys, we're closing out here. A couple minutes left. Is there anything last minute closeouts that I should address as far as the season goes? I feel like we were all over the map with this podcast, but we did cover a lot of cool topics, which is good.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you checked a lot of the boxes you wanted. So the people are going to want to know, when can they see Shredded Leroy again? What do you think?
The earliest is 2025. That's the earliest. I will say that is very loosely scheduled, because there's a very high likelihood by then that there's a small child in this house that will demand my attention. And if it ain't the time, it ain't the time. I'm in this for the long haul, whether it's 2025, 26, 2030. I don't care. Like I said, I checked off the biggest goal I had for myself, and I know the next goal is huge, and the work that's required for that is immense. And the longer I wait, arguably the more likely it could probably happen versus rushing it. So
you're looking to unlock that cheat code. You're waiting to compete until you have that dad strength. That's the cheat.
Dad strength and old man thin skin, and I'm just gonna hack the system.
I need to do some work in the background.
just imagine how jacked my forearms will be by then, Dan.
Juicy.
Direct forearm work's gonna be paying off.
Hell yeah.
Sweet. All right, boys. Well, I appreciate the conversation. I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. If you have questions about, my prep specifically, or just prep in general, post show, whatever, let us know. Comment them below. Message one of us privately. If you think it would make a good podcast, we'll talk about it, because this stuff is important for people to hear, because, prep is an insane challenge, and it's probably one of the most rewarding things, but it's also one of the hardest things. It's going to test you. It's going to challenge you. It's going to make you question everything about life and why you're doing this. You're going to hate it at some points. You're going to love it at other points. I can speak to that. But,
I think it forced you to be introspective too.
For sure. You learn some shit about yourself, which is never a bad thing. So, again, let us know if there's stuff you want us to talk about, because we will. We appreciate your support as always. Thank you. And we'll see you guys in the next one.